In this book called The Ninja Mind, Harnessing the Mental Strength and Physical Abilities of the Ninjutsu Masters, there is a chapter in here about mental strength. And what this included was a meditation. And this was about identifying a hero and meeting that hero and then walking with that hero. And the one they used is a person I'd never heard of named Fudu Mayo. So I thought what we would do is pick some people that were a little bit more well known than that kind of character. Now, one of the things I'm going to be doing is using nested loops. Loops are powerful techniques for rapidly inducing altered states. And when information or instructions are properly delivered inside nested loops, the subject is often unaware of receiving and surprised to discover at a later date how thoughts, feelings, and behaviors have changed. But what we're going to do is a 5 in and 5 out nested loop pattern. So the way this works is I'm going to be telling you of story 1, then I'm going to embed some kind of command, and then I'll start story 2, then we'll interrupt that one with story 3, story 4, story 5, and then we'll eventually wrap up these stories as we're moving along through the hypnotic session. Now, you're probably already familiar with this type of idea when considering a memorable movie that you might have liked. It likely had a plot with multiple subplots, and those eventually conclude as the movie advances. Now, this gives a better ability to capture our attention and hold it long enough to keep going, because we want resolution of each of these stories. So while the mind is open, we use this opportunity to slam in the resources. Now, the resources, or the people that we're going to be including in this hypnosis session, are as follows. First, we're going to be having Dr. Manhattan in there. I think he's handy because he's powerful and he represents deconstruction and regeneration, and he can move forward in time, and he's powerful. And the second person that we're going to be including as a resource will be Theodore Roosevelt. Now, he had a harsh upbringing, and of course he also had become the youngest elected president ever. So he's going to be in here as a resource for resilience. And then after that, we're going to be including General Matthew B. Ridgway. Now, he is a character who was in the book called Savior Generals. This is about people who managed to turn wars around. Now, General Matthew B. Ridgway wasn't exactly a nice guy. He's not the kind of guy you'd call to go to a party. He's the kind of guy you'd call when hell breaks loose. And he got that call during the Korean War, and when he managed to go there, he figured out a way to be able to turn that war around and create peace. So he's certainly in here as a person that's able to create a reversal and look for ways to win when things look absolutely desperate. And then, of course, after that, we'll have Fudu Mayo, which is this type of god who is in charge of being representative of a movable strength, and he usually has flames behind him, and he's chained down to a rock, and he has a sword in one hand and rope in the other, and he's not somebody to mess with. So he's somebody that's going to be representing strength. And then the last person that's going to be included as a resource is Dan Peterson. Now, his claim to fame started around 1968 when he was asked with founding a new fighter school at the Navy's Air Station in San Diego. Now, he was given that job because the Navy was losing pilots and aircraft over the jungles of Vietnam in Operation Rolling Thunder. So Dan Peterson's job was to figure out how to be able to teach these pilots to become improved so that they're not losing so many. So what ended up happening is he created the Top Gun School. And so the old mindset was to cautiously avoid death in training, but this new mindset that Peterson was teaching was to aggressively embrace death in training and force all the pilots to confront all the ways that they could die in the sky. Right? So eventually all of these pilots learned to no longer rely on their equipment, and they just figured out ways to be able to get better at being jet fighter pilots. Okay, so these are the resources that are being included in our 5 in, 5 out nested loop pattern for immovable strength. Now, this last tool that's going to be included in this hypnosis session is what's called a prediction error. This is also known as a mismatch experience, also known as a violation of expectations, also known as a juxtaposition experience. So basically, we're toggling between problem state and solution state. So there's going to be times during the session where you're going to be imagining what it's like to have had that problem, whatever that problem was, right? And then you're going to be imagining what it's like to be having all of the resources fully integrated into you. And then in your mind, you're going to be imagining what it was like to have the problem and not problem and have both of these ideas in the same field of awareness. And then what this does is it creates a mismatched experience and a little bit of a change in the brain. So that's what's going on in this session. We're going to be having a prediction error. We're also going to be having this 5 in, 5 out nested loop pattern. And we also know what kind of resources we're going to be including. All right, so now that you know what the plan is coming up and what's involved in this hypnosis session for immovable strength, You might be wanting to get comfortable and get settled in, and then I can start with this session and put on the music, and then we can begin. So one of the ways to get into a trance is with multimodal communication, which we will do now with suggestive descriptions that use various senses to come online, such as auditory, visual, and kinesthetic suggestions. So beginning now, envisioning yourself strolling in a forest. Perhaps you're under the shade from the canopy of leaves above, while hearing a creek, perhaps babbling afar, maybe birds singing in the background up in the trees, as you smell the pine in the air, while feeling the pine needles crunching on the ground beneath your feet. Now, while you're hiking along through the path, among the trees you see a structure in the distance, and it looks like it could be a type of castle. Eventually you enter and are welcomed inside by a calm voice who suggests that you begin to walk down a staircase. You comply and descend. After several steps, you enter a large, dimly lit room. It has a fireplace and several leather Chippendale couches and Tiffany lamps, Persian rugs, oil paintings, marble statues, antiques, and artifacts that are centuries old. Now, you have your doubts. You begin to remember times when you were let down in the past. You might remember being disappointed, and other times when you lacked the courage to act and how that turned out. And you recall when things were wrong, but you lacked the strength to hold your ground. Or times when you did act with courage and it backfired. While remembering those past moments of disappointment, you see your reflection in a huge mirror and notice how it affects your body and your physiology and the way that you stand. And in this moment in time, you decide to straighten up and put your shoulders back and keep going. In this lavish setting, you notice a blue glow pouring into the room, and it can be none other than Dr. Manhattan. He is full of muscles and has a powerful energy, and he looks you in the eye with a warm, friendly gaze and motions for you to relax, since he can see how his presence is perhaps causing you to display changes in temperature and heart rate and pupil dilation. As you sit down, he offers you a water from a reprogramming mind thermos and asks for you to describe the situation you would like help with. You open up your backpack and take out a diary with your written concerns, which he probably knows about better than you, but it's natural for you to voice your thoughts and give them clarity. It also gives Dr. Manhattan an opportunity to hear your story and understand what it is that you need to fulfill your purpose. And so he is listening, and he absorbs your presence, your words, with focused attention, analyzing your syntax, tonality, and body language and more, all while you are communicating. And you may find it comforting and curious how he is so interested in helping you. You continue sharing your plans, the obstacles and the challenges you faced in life, along with how you could use some strength to handle the stress and the pressures of the worthy path ahead. Dr. Manhattan understands your history and how the organism of your being had at times blocked or prevented you, since sometimes after a traumatic setback the body keeps the score, especially after a significant emotional event, and how these blockages can prevent us and supposedly protect us from being in the flow of our desires. But as much as the body keeps the score, Dr. Manhattan is here for changing the score. And doing so, the more you are now in the flow of consciousness that is fortifying your psychological strength and updating the lessons within. Now, at this time, he asks for you to create an image in your mind, vividly with details, of how you would recognize yourself after you've reached your goal. Maybe it's an idea of the physique you want, in the outfit you desire, in an environment you enjoy, and surrounded with loving people. Perhaps it's learning a new way to live your life with greater ease and joy and glory as you are considering all the different indicators letting you know that this is going on. So if you were to see yourself in the future with all the challenges fully integrated, with this improved version of imagined self, you also recall how you looked in the mirror mere moments ago when you felt a little bit deflated. And when you compare how you were then to how you are now, just thinking about accomplishing your goals, you're already noticing subtle shifts in your attitude, in your body, and your demeanor. Dr. Manhattan continues to process your story, and then he begins to share his wisdom based on your specific history and personality. He speaks to you in symbols, images, and feelings, and words, in ways where recollections of your strength from your history are being evoked. Each one is revealing moments in your past where you had shown signs of strength, each strengthening along your way. And as you begin to recall more of these, he mentions more and more and more of them, and then balls up the energy of your past strength and begins to make it expand and hum with greater power. And it's in the color that represents your own immovable strength. He then takes this strength ball of energy and takes it with him out into your undiscovered decades of life you've yet to live. And he begins to roll this ball through your timeline so that it slathers your future with this sense of strength, so that you have it within you every day of your life, expressing itself throughout your being and in the fruits of your labor, in the way that you speak and carry yourself. And then you take a sip of water from your reprogramming mind bottle and begin to simmer in these ideas, allowing these thoughts to marinate, integrate, and allow the circuitry to be built and rebuilt so that you can be moving forward with this newfound strength that is being unblocked, allowing it to flower and blossom more into your future. And then after his hypnotic talk, he suggests several people that he would like you to visit. He begins to leave and you follow him down a hall. At that time he opens a door and puts on the light, and he suggests you come in this way, but first reminds you that what was holding you back shall do so for the last time, and asks to make sure you would like to proceed, experiencing change for the better. After your nod of approval, Dr. Manhattan begins to describe who we are to meet and why, and that one of the most impressive people came from harsh circumstances and rose to prominence. And we will meet some of them, and for your first meeting, Dr. Manhattan gives you something and says, please use this as a gift. And the gift that Dr. Manhattan manifests is a special book for you to give Theodore Roosevelt. And this is a book that will ignite conversation from him, which you probably will benefit from hearing. Dr. Manhattan then glances to a door by the side, and in walks Theodore Roosevelt. After seeing Theodore Roosevelt, you walk up to him and you show him the gift, which is a journal, and inside it has the Roosevelt book plate. He begins to open it, and he sees your gift and begins to recall the history about that journal. You can see his eyes defocus as he remembers all the times his family crest had got him through hardships. After a minute of silence, he finally looks up and says, Qui plantavit curabit, who plants preserves. At first you're shocked to hear his voice and have his eye contact and to hear the weird words he said and the smell of his tobacco and the muffled tick-tock of his gold watch chained in his brown vest. And again he says, who plants preserves. And these thoughts seed the garden of your mind. And the watering occurs when you sleep, although in those moments some of these thoughts may get washed away, but some do stay and root, and more so every day. Daily practice of these words further enables you to have greater ease as to how who plants preserves. You plant this idea where you need it most, so you can have it become triggered in the times when perhaps you're feeling, as Roosevelt said, beaten in the dust. And you have already begun planting this idea, along with the earlier ideas planted by Dr. Manhattan. And so as you begin to consider all the ways that you can be planning for your future and planting seeds for your goals in your body, in your mind, your wealth, and your health, Dr. Manhattan suggests it's time we move on to another meeting. And he says, come in this way. As he leads you to the next room, Dr. Manhattan begins to describe who we're about to meet, which is General Matthew B. Ridgway. And he says Ridgway was known as being magnetic and courageous and a balanced fighter. He was also given the Medal of Freedom. And as Dr. Manhattan continued telling you all these heroic stories about General Matthew B. Ridgway, you notice him sitting in the chair. When you see General Matthew B. Ridgway, you see him in his typical fashion. You know it's him because on his chest he wears a live grenade and a medical kit. And this is a man who won medals for bravery and fought victoriously in wars and turned a defeated army into victors. In the strategic environment of war, whether it's the battlefield of the workplace, the business landscape, or with peers, staff, customers, co-workers, family, or making decisions in your purposeful life, you may, with Ridgway's suggestion, be finding yourself able to embrace uncertainty while imagining it feeding your ingenuity so that you are able to be transforming stressors into challenges you routinely face and handle effectively and efficiently with strength. Now, as you two get to know each other even more, Ridgway shares with you the idea on how to apply your resources to a highest order of functioning. And this can be your skills, education, networks of people, and ideas that you have, which could be repurposed for the purpose of reducing problems while increasing your own fortitude. As he shares with you all the resources that you have, he reminds you of times he was able to lead battles into victory by taking advantage of opportunities while increasing stability and securing greater positioning. After several moments of absorbing what the general has to say, you begin to articulate your purpose and considering ways to organize your resources so they are more aligned with the missions of your life, which can be increasing and improving your results, because this understanding allows you to be further progressing at a steadier pace with limited risk and the highest reward. Now, embodying this wisdom allows you to guide your life with some of the principles of a war general so that you can be facing risks that expands your presence in life and doing so securely with longevity and strength. In this way, your growth is stabilized on the bedrock of your values and expressed through the actions of your daily habits. At this time, Dr. Manhattan motions to leave. We have another visit ahead of us, and this is one we must face, and it is with one of the most ferocious figures in history, Fudu Mayo. Dr. Manhattan leads you out to a garden, and when you're outside, you see sitting on a rock the immovable wisdom king in the flesh, Fudu Mayo, and he is more menacing in person, especially with his threatening postures, intense eyes, and face which are designed to subdue evil and frighten unbelievers. He represents the removal of all obstacles to enlightenment and enforcing evil to surrender. Now you stand directly across from him, and you feel calm as Fudu Mayo teaches you the lesson of first victory. This lesson is about when battles are won in the mind before stepping on the field. He looks at you with a piercing stare and says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. This lesson sinks deep, and you begin to imagine the areas in your life where this can be beneficial in the days, weeks, years ahead to apply this first victory mindset. When he focuses on you in this way, You are understanding how you can shatter obstacles or melt them or go around them, through them, or to them to confront whatever is required to move with strength. He also lets you know, through his menacing stare, that if you are ever fearful of making progress, that you will remember how the alternative, which is to face Fudu Mayo again, is far more terrifying to deal with if you just don't advance your plans. So whatever fears and doubts prevented you from making progress and taking action are small in comparison to the worst alternative of encountering Fudu Mayo again. Now, in the past, when you might have been on the right path, you may have also considered giving up. But now, after meeting with Fudu Mayo, his image becomes sharply evoked in your mind in such a way that when you are hesitant in the future, this memory of Fudu Mayo comes to mind, and these memories gives you enough strength and conviction to change your mind for good, so you are able to move forward with this ancient power that shall be continuing to drive you forward with immovable strength. In doing so, you also may recall how the greatest accomplishments of your life so far likely had doubts and uncertainty, perhaps fears, yet you bravely took action. Sometimes it was learning a new skill, maybe reconnecting with a person from the past, or finally taking action on this work of yours which must be done. And from here forward, whenever you have a goal, you recognize its importance, which compels you to clear obstacles and to also achieve first victory by winning in your mind before the challenging event occurs. At this time, you wholeheartedly understand what there is to learn from Fudu Mayo, and you hope Dr. Manhattan gets us out of this garden soon so you can continue the rest of this session in a lighter way. Dr. Manhattan glances at you and turns his way out of the castle's garden. You follow and thankfully go back inside, feeling more at ease now. Dr. Manhattan leads you down a hall and into a room where you begin noticing how it is decorated with models of jets and photos of jet fighter pilots, trophies, medals, aviation books, flight manuals, and a Top Gun poster framed on the wall. Dr. Manhattan then introduces you to Dan Peterson, the founder of the Top Gun School. Dan Peterson is giving a lecture on how to maneuver through danger at speeds faster than sound, and how to survive and thrive when flying with practiced ease through perilous chaos. He reminds you how the pilots that he's trained are the best in the world, and this is partly due to the lesson that Dan Peterson gives you right now, which is that first man to the chalkboard wins the fight. He also reminds you how Top Gun wants solid, mature professionals, perhaps touched by a divine spark of inspiration, and intelligent warriors who fight with their head, heart, and hands. You realize how you can be more professional and how you can be creating greater value from your own hands, your own heart, your own head, way cleared for takeoff. Now, even though you may not have a chalkboard, you find a way to write your plan, perhaps using something from your backpack to take notes and draw out some of your life's itinerary. When you are complete learning these Top Gun mindset lessons, you again notice Dr. Manhattan, who is motioning that it is time to move on. Dr. Manhattan thanks you for your time and mentions what a great job you did in following along while picking up these words of wisdom along the way. Now, as an added turbocharge for speed learning, Dr. Manhattan floats towards you and extends his arm and index finger, which are slowly approaching your face, and you feel the tip of his finger touching you lightly in the center of your forehead. This part of your forehead shields a part of your brain called the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, and this part of your brain is deeply connected to your default sense of self, which is also known as the default mode network. This is where you sense the rush of data and the lessons from Dr. Manhattan, Dan Peterson, Fudu Mayo, General Ridgway, and Theodore Roosevelt embedding into the neurology of your being, fulfilling your future steps with greater strength, power, and ability to summon the actions necessary for blossoming an abundance of victories, accomplishments, and fulfilling experiences, casting upon your future timeline so that your life is becoming peppered with greater moments that expands your beneficial impact on society day by day. Dr. Manhattan then backs away and motions for you that it's time for you to go. He's done his work, he's changed the score, and you see him turn around, close the door, put out the light. You go into the hall and pass that mirror again, but there is a difference you didn't notice before. An antique bench with striped, cushioned, upholstered, rich fabric, and you decide to relax as you sit and place your backpack beside you and take out your journal. You enjoy several moments remembering and writing what happened back there so that you can recall these lessons, and also on demand, since they'll always be at your back, packed among your other goodies. As you are writing, the energy of these people melts into a symbol that combines all of these elements into one coherent representation of their strength. And now you take your symbol and you let it have a color if you haven't already, a color that represents this immovable strength. Now, when you're ready, just let that colorful symbol of immovable strength liquefy and dissolve into some part of you, taking this feeling with it, this deep, healing relaxation, spreading into some part of your body. Enjoy these wonderful feelings as they soak into, are absorbed by that place, very deeply so. Now, move it somewhere else. It would do you good. As you do, these good feelings only increase in intensity. Feel them intensify. That's right. So that pleasurable feeling only increases. Maybe it pulsates. Maybe it moves in waves, or cycles, or twirls, or circulates, or radiates from that place outward and inward. Now let your colorful symbol dissolve into another part of your deserving body, just the right place, and move it there. You know where is best. As it melts, these good feelings can increase, double, triple, quadruple if you like, if your unconscious is willing. Now, take this lovely healing feeling and allow it to feel even more pleasant as you notice it travel somewhere else, wherever you need it, taking the feelings with it. When I say your unconscious now wants to help you, your unconscious has always protected you. If something begins to fly toward you, you blink. If somebody begins to move toward you, your peripheral vision notifies you, and you go into the state that's alert. And when you're done, you relax. Really relax with a growing sense of comfort. And the deeper you go, the more comfort you have. And you remember to smile, because it should feel good to know your unconscious now is helping you to do things which otherwise you would be unable to. It's as if you're in a dream, because when you have a dream, you don't always know you're dreaming. So the dream you should have now is the one where your desires bubble up, and where your worries and your fears move backward Because when you move backward, deep down, inside out, what happens is your unconscious now will help you to move these thoughts from a state of comfort to one of perpetual delight. Because in this state, the only thing you need to know is that there is delight at the end of the tunnel. Now, after taking your notes, you realize it's time to go. So you go to the stairs and you begin to ascend, each step bringing you closer to the surface. Eventually you get to the door and you go outside, inhaling the fresh air and the scent of pine needles as you hike your way back from where you began, while feeling refreshed, fantastic, and prepared for what the future brings. And now you can fall asleep or continue with your day in your own way. Whichever is right for you is something you can naturally do on your own.